Your Spiritual Awakening, the podcast where we explore the path to self-discovery and transformation. I'm your host, Kristy, and together, joined with Jen, my co-host, we embark on a journey of guided experts from a diverse range of modalities, helping navigate the twists and turns of your spiritual awakening.
Today we have an incredible guest joining us on the show. Her name is Joanna Rushton. She is a holistic health and energy therapist, a teacher and an author. She's studied under some of the world's leading holistic health practitioners and healers, and she's here to share her wisdom with us today. Welcome to the show, Joanna.
Thank you, Kristy. Thank you, Jen.
You're welcome.
Joanna, welcome to the show. Could you tell us a bit about your background and what led you to become a holistic health and energy therapist?
Well, I call it in my first life. I was a chef for about 12 years. If I go back to the first life of graduating in college, back in the UK, so I'm from the UK originally, and I came to Australia in 98 as a backpacker, and I basically chefed myself around Australia, and I got a sponsorship with the Australian Navy back in Sydney at Watson's Bay. And they, not that I'm in the Navy or was in the Navy, but they tendered all of the contracting, all the catering was tendered out to private contractors by this time. And I used to work for the company, which was a French company. I used to work for them back in England. And so when I found out that they were also the contractors of the Australian Defence Force, I looked for a position there because I was really looking to stay in Australia. I'd been here for about a year. So I was really looking to stay. So I managed to get a sponsorship with them, which then I was able to get residency a few years later. And then I would say about 4 years into that, I was starting to really have a shift in my own focus. To be honest, the inspiration of cooking wasn't there in the same way as it was 12 years previously. And I was really, at that, I guess, second big initiation for me in terms of realizing that I really wanted to change direction and how was I going to do this? And to be honest with you, I remember my partner at the time asked me, we were sort of debating, where was I going to go next? And they said, well, when you're not in the kitchen, you're in the gym trying to balance these two lifestyles. And I said, yeah, that's really true, actually. And they said, why don't you go and do a training course in personal training? So, of course, that was way back then in about 2002. And that's exactly what I did. I went and did a Cert 3, Cert 4, as you do, in personal training all the way back then. And I transitioned out of catering, took everything I knew with me, and it's supported my initial years with working with people within personal training and well-being. And then about 5 years into that new career, a friend of mine asked me if I'd ever heard of a guy called Paul Chek. And I said no. And they said, well, I think you're really going to like his stuff. So I went, okay. And he was actually due in Australia about a month, 6 weeks after this conversation, because back then he used to tour Australia, New Zealand, when he was teaching himself. And so I went along to one of his workshops and met the guy. It was actually an advanced Swiss ball workshop that I went to. And what I saw he was able to do, and just listening to the wisdom of the man, I was just like, okay, there's something for me to learn here. So from that course, another huge trajectory, I was opened to the Chek Institute, which is his school, if you like, which teaches a very rounded and a very multidisciplinary approach to health and well-being through physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual, and really teaches you how to work on all levels So I went through studying with Paul for many, many years, did all of his advanced training courses in holistic lifestyle coaching. And one year he was out as again doing his rounds teaching, and I'd meet up with him whenever he came out. And one year he said, "So when are you going to start teaching for me?" And I went, "Ooh." And so that was sort of the next phase, if you like, into again a big step into my own spiritual journey, stepping up as a teacher, and embodying more of his teachings. But I would say that he was a pivotal teacher and a real pivotal time in my life where I was opened and cracked open more to understanding the nature of who I am and starting my spiritual path. You could say. He really, opened me to self-inquiry, new levels of self-awareness, understanding what I am beyond blood and bone and the physical matter that we sit in for a little while. And, from there, I continue to teach his courses, level 1, 2, and 3 now in holistic lifestyle coaching, which I love. And along with Paul, I guess the other pivotal time in my life, as I met Paul, I also met Inassa Mabu Ishtar, who is another amazing spiritual teacher. And I've, worked with Ishtar alongside Paul for the last 15, 16 years. And both teachers have been pivotal in my own journey, and my own depth of exploration. And so, that's in a very short summary, I guess, how, who was the catalyst for my life, because I believe that we all have catalysts.
Yeah.
Either people or places or events that forward in our life. And for me, really, Paul Chek and Ishtar are two pivotal teachers in my life that have really opened the spiritual doors for me.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, I love how you, if you really sort of reflect and go further back from those pivotal moments, it was really even the lead up and choice of a decision to become a chef, which is all about the nutrition, right? And then the PT, and then this is just like all of the keys to living in a true energetic alignment. Now, you've had the privilege of studying under some of the world's leading holistic health practitioners and healers. My question to you is, could you share some of the key insights or lessons, so to speak, that have shaped your approach to holistic wellness?
Love to. Look, I'm very much grounded in what we call within Paul's work the foundational principles. And one of the things that I've really seen and witnessed over the years with students that are on their spiritual journey, how important it is to first of all learn to be in your physical body, because that's where the soul has chosen to be.
Right. When you're having a physical experience, right? We keep trying to escape it.
That's exactly right. And that first step of really acknowledging that the soul has, chosen to come and have an experience in the physical, in the third dimension. And it's, chosen to explore its mastery in this domain. And that really understanding that, and therefore understanding that our physical body is this beautiful vessel that supports us to experience and manifest our spiritual nature. When we understand that how we look after our spiritual, or how we look after our physical body, has a huge impact, therefore, on how we're going to experience our spiritual self.
Mm-hmm.
And learning to really be grounded in the physical body, learning to look after your physical body, that would be the first step.
Mm-hmm.
Establishing a holistic approach. So, honestly, in my experience, that to open and expand our consciousness, to be able to do that whilst remaining grounded in the physical body, that's the ultimate experience of expanding our consciousness. You said it before, when we try and expand our consciousness, but we're doing that with an unconscious intention to be outside of the body,
Mm-hmm.
then we're actually missing a full experience of the spirit, that's fulfilling wanting to be here and master its gift in the physical domain, and fulfill its mission and purpose as part of the collective, which is really to support us all to evolve and support Mother Gaia on her ascension plan, and we can't do that unless we understand how our physical bodies operate simultaneously as a pillar of light.
I agree wholeheartedly.
And that light quotient, we have to feed that, but we have to feed that both within the physical and the non-physical. We have to learn how to integrate the two. So that would be the very first, in Paul Chek's basic understanding of foundational health. He teaches 6 foundational principles, which is understanding that, our thoughts and our attitude, how we breathe, our hydration, our nutrition, our movement, and our sleep, these are the 6 foundation principles that form the foundations to our experiences.
Absolutely. When I teach people how to connect with spirit and to really sort of, they're already connected. It's more sort of to tune in and feel the flow of spirit, really, because we are already connected. We're not disconnected. My foundational teachings are they sound very identical to that. And it's like our body is the temple. We are the receiver. So we need to see our body as a temple and worship it, whether that's through food, movement, honoring ourselves energetically, staying in integrity, right? All those things, keeping us at, I suppose, in a peak state so that we can really welcome in that flow. Beautiful. I love that. It's so important.
And when it's all connected, there's that flow. So it connects straight up and down.
That's right. And the vibration, we're a vibration, and when we understand that every one of our cells are vibrating, and as an antenna, when that antenna, even from our posture, when our posture isn't in alignment, we're in better alignment to that which we are open to receiving. When is shut down, then it's a bit like trying to watch TV without an antenna. You're looking at a lot of fuzz, and that can be how we feel when we don't have optimal alignment, whether that's posturally, whether that's emotionally, whether that's mentally. So it's a really understanding the nature of frequency as we emit it and transmit it, receive it and transmit it as a biological battery.
Through our different energetic bodies. I had a download the other day, and I don't know much about the vagus nerve, but like the download has come to me about 5 or 6 times, and it was the vagus nerve is the antenna, like to the ether. Also, I still am not making any sense of it. I kind of understand it, but I don't know enough about the vagus nerve to fully understand it. But it's like, actually, that's our transmitter. It's a communication device that connects everything inside of our body to source energy and that around us. So
yeah, well, the vagus nerve plays an important main line that's connecting us to the electromagnetic field of the gut and, of course, the electromagnetic field of the brain. And then through the heart center, which is another electromagnetic field. So we have these three biological oscillators: the brain, the heart, and the digestive system. And the vagus nerve is a connector through all three.
Yeah, wow. There you go.
So, yeah.
There you go. Very.
Mind-blowing.
I'm going to be exploring that a little bit more. I'm being called to. So watch this space.
So, Jo, as a faculty member of the Sheck Institute, you teach holistic lifestyle, and it was level 1, 2, and 3 across several countries.
Yes.
What are some foundational principles of holistic lifestyle coaching that our audience can benefit from?
Well, if we come back to the 6 foundation principles that within Paul's model of coaching, he brings the 6 foundation principles into a model of what he calls the last 4 doctors you'll ever need. And if you understand the concept and the principle of the last 4 doctors, which is Dr. Happy, Dr. Quiet, Dr. Diet, and Dr. Movement. And within those, we have what we call Dr. Diet and Dr. Quiet. And Dr. Quiet and Dr. Diet represent the yin principles: rejuvenation, regeneration, like the feminine heart of God. It's all about learning to receive and be replenished and nourished and rejuvenated and regenerated. And so when we look at the 6 foundation principles, then nutrition, hydration, and sleep are governed by Dr. Quiet and Dr. Diet. So when we look at the foundations, we then have the other 3 foundations, which is thinking, so what we think and our attitude, and then we have breathing, and then we have movement. And they're considered to be governed by Dr. Happy and Dr. Movement, which are yang in their expression. So already we're starting to establish that there is this balancing of the yin and the yang energy through these 6 foundation principles. So the yin being food, nutrition, hydration, and sleep. And they're all regenerative. We need these foundations to rejuvenate, regenerate. And then we have the yang principles, which are thinking, because thinking is an outward utilization of energy. So we have thinking, we have breathing, because breathing stimulates, again, the breathing in is a oxygenating, activating experience. So we have breathing, we have thinking, and then we have movement, of course, which is, again, an outward use of energy. So we have the yin principles and the yang principles. And when we're looking to establish a holistic approach to creating health, wellness, well-being, we can simplify what is a complex subject, but we can simplify it by really looking at learning to balance the yin and the yang of our being, learning to balance the feminine consciousness and the masculine consciousness. And as we learn how to do that through our lifestyle and through the basic 6 foundation principles that emulate the yin and the yang principles, then it's really learning how it is that through your lifestyle choices, where it is that you're out of balance between the yin and the yang, where there is too much thinking and not enough time spent just being. And where the exercise, whilst we need exercise, are we exercising beyond our capacity, beyond the energy that we actually have to give? Because exercise is an expenditure of energy. If you're already depleted, then you're putting yourself further into an energetic debt, if you like. If you think of yourself as a bank account of energy, then all the choices you make, whether it's what's on the end of your fork, is either going to be one that replenishes you and nurtures you and nourishes you, or it can deplete you of your life force and deplete you of your chi. And so really it's taking each of those individual 6 principles and looking at where in your life, how are you working with those 6 individual principles, and where are they balanced? And balance, I'm not looking at balance as being this stagnant place that often we think of balance as a scale that comes in and stops moving. Balance is really learning to move with the ebbs and the flows, and being able to, recalibrate after an expenditure of energy. So again, it comes back to that principle of really learning to receive before you give. And that's one of the biggest spiritual understandings that I've come into, an awareness over the years, because we're great at giving. Often we're so focused on the doing and the giving, and we forget about the importance of receiving and where we're receiving from, not just what we're receiving, but where are we receiving from. And, if we're not taking that time to drop deeply within our feminine consciousness and really connect to our spirit deeply and receive from that consciousness, then what are we sharing? If we're not receiving from that place, then chances are we're constantly going in and receiving from the ego, and then of course sharing from the ego. So when it comes, for me personally, when it comes to really balancing that quotient of light within us, and balancing it in a way that nurtures us and nourishes us and supports us to be all that we are, then I always come back and ask myself, where am I receiving from? What am I receiving, and where am I receiving it from? And I can ask that of my food. I can ask that of my water. I can ask that of my thoughts. I can ask that of my movement. And the more conscious I become of where I'm receiving from and what that is creating for me in my life, then I can become more conscious of what it is that I'm connecting to and what it's creating in my life.
There's a lot of, is there some Taoism in there? Some Taoist beliefs?
I don't
I'm
know.
not sure.
I've never studied Taoism.
I haven't studied Taoism, but I've had it in some of my teachings, and just there's kind of like this weave of, but I think that's a lot with most things that are kind of in this collective space that we're all sort of leaning into, opening up to, and sort of bringing to the world. I feel like there's this collective energy of what that is anyway. You mentioned, you've spoken about empowering people, individuals, to transform physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. How do you approach this holistic transformation, and what practical tools do you offer to help people implement that change in their lives?
Well, Kristy, depending on where the individual is at, will really depend on which tools I offer an individual. It comes back to what you asked before about some of the basic foundations of holistic wellness. And in my experience, unless there's some baseline health at the level of the physical, and we've got some stability at the level of the physical, like the central nervous system is stable, there's nutrition on board. This is such an important foundational understanding, because when you start then to move into the realms of working with people emotionally, mentally, starting to work through their energy bodies, if we don't have some grounding there, if the central nervous system again isn't grounded, if we're not grounded in our physical body, then to take that next step and start to work more energetically through the emotional field, through the higher mental field, then often what I find is that people struggle to anchor that frequency when we start to open to receive or do the work that I do with my clients, through the energy work, which is, really receiving high frequency transmissions. And, we all have our quotient on how much frequency we can take on based on our level of baseline health, to be honest with you. And so, where I would start with clients, this is why through Paul's holistic lifestyle coaching, we start at the foundations. We start with, first of all, supporting the physical body to the health of the glands and the organs, to actually establish a baseline health to support the overall health of the body. So we really, I work at a nutritional level to begin with, improving the quality of what people are eating, helping them to develop a understanding for their own unique biochemistry and their own needs nutritionally, that help to balance their biochemistry. Once we've got some foundations on board and their nervous system is more stabilized, their hormonal system is more stabilized, then we will start exploring, if it's appropriate, we start exploring more of the mental and emotional realms of their health and wellness. And we start to, look at what belief systems they're holding that are limiting them in some way. What other energy are they holding that's creating some sort of limitation in their life? And we start to then work with that consciousness. And we start to give it a little bit of an upgrade and a shift in their consciousness. And as you lovely ladies know, the moment we have a shift in our consciousness, we have a shift in our reality.
We do. It's usually when people go, what is happening to me? Right? Why is everything so different in my life? Nothing's changed. It's just you've had a perception shift.
Yeah. And what I find is, when there's a healthier body and they're more grounded in that healthier body, then that shift in their consciousness, they're able to integrate with so much more ease and grace than if they, just as an example, I had a client that really wanted to come and do some deeper inner child work. But when I did a little bit of a case history of where he's at, an overall look at his health and his well-being at that point, it would have been wrong of me, simply duty of care, to have suggested that that's where we start, because he just wouldn't have been ready to take on that level of depth of work, because his nervous system just was already too fried. So mentally and emotionally, he wouldn't have, he would have been even more traumatized by going in to do that deeper work until there was some balance and stabilizing. And, luckily he was willing to go away and listen to that advice that I, offered him around the things he could do that will help to stabilize him at the level of the physical. And once he's done that, then really happy for him to come back and we go to that next step, that next level. And that's, I've seen all too many times the analogy wanting to run before you can walk, and people wanting to dive in to do, the deeper work. And the reality is that, it's the ego that wants to dive in, and then it gets a slap in the face when it does, and it's not ready for what it's about to embark under Pandora's box when you actually lift up the bonnet.
Definitely.
Yes, it is so important to not bypass the rest of, I see that happening a lot in this space too, where we just sort of go straight to the wounding, or, I've gone through, I'm in the midst of another dark night right now, but I refuse to go into the wounding yet. I see it, and when it comes up, I sort of journal it and push it aside. But we need to let things run. We do need to work on our nervous system. We do need to make sure that we are maintaining this vessel. And when that emotion, that energy has run its course, that's when I go do the work. I don't do it before then. Yeah, so important.
It is. It's otherwise you're just going to battle with the mind, and you're going into battle with emotions, and they're going to win every time. When
they will,
they will.
And then that then throws the rest of it all out of balance again after you've just stabilized.
Yeah, and I think when we go into it in the moment too, we're only seeing what we're seeing in that moment. Whereas if we actually let our system just run the course of that emotion, that energy, when we actually have the space to go and revisit it, we can get deeper, and we are more prepared to and more open. So it's like, there's really, we're sort of cutting ourselves off short, and potentially we're gonna have to come back to this point again and dive deeper again. Like, I just park it. I'll deal with it when I need to, but I don't want to prolong this any more than it needs to be prolonged.
Yeah, and it's, but we have to have a level of awareness, everything you're speaking about right there. First of all, we have to have a level of awareness that we're reacting to our emotions. There's, an energy there that, is being to us through the law of reflection. And, becoming aware of how we're reacting to that. In my experience early on in my life, I didn't have the awareness for the fact that I was reacting.
Yeah, right.
There was a big growth spurt between realizing, oh, wow, that's me reacting. That's what reacting is. And then having space and a gap to be a witness to
breathe
my projections. And spending some time just in that space of watching and observing what it is like to react.
Totally. And I think, in the world of coaching, I think it's really important as a coach, as a guide, that we also have the awareness of that when people come to us, because I see a lot of damage done and re-traumatized souls because of people that are in this space and don't have, or just want to, they're sort of run by their ego that, let's go to that inner child. Let's tackle that inner child. I'm like, inner child needs love and acceptance first and foremost, and a little bit of nurturing, but we need to make sure we nurture our soul first. So I think that's a really important conversation, actually.
It's, taking the time, you said it before, taking a breath and just, you asked me just before, what are some of the basic tools that I would offer your audience? And all too often I see us seeking these, complicated ways. We feel like we're such complicated beings at times, and the more complicated our situation, the more complicated the solution is that we're looking for. And all too often, I come back to two basic principles, and that is just our breath and hydration. Like,
Totally.
I could speak about water and the just the sacred geometry of water, the consciousness of water. I mean, for me, water is like a gatekeeper to our own consciousness. And this is why I've realized over the years, clients struggle to increase their amount of water and the quality of the water they're drinking, because the moment they do, they become more conscious.
Yeah.
They awaken, because it is literally a gatekeeper to our consciousness. It awakens us. Because when you're drinking good quality, well mineralized water that's alive, then you're enlivening your spirit and it's awakening within you. But when that happens, we've got to be willing to take responsibility for what's being awakened. And not everybody's ready to take that responsibility.
No.
So we know that you speak and teach internationally on health and nutrition and wellness and lifestyle. Can you share some common misconceptions or challenges that you have encountered in your teachings, like especially when they relate to spirituality and well-being?
Well, in the book that I wrote a number of years ago, Rocket Fuel on a Budget, How to Get Healthy Without Going Broke, I highlighted in the front of that book, my front or the back, there are about 15 or 20 misconceptions, again, around health and well-being and spirituality. Around health, again, I think some of the biggest ones over the years, and they are being debunked gradually, but it's still, I still see it out there in sort of mainstream media, still making animal fat the villain, still making good quality fat responsible for weight gain, responsible for heart disease, obesity, diabetes, and all of these things. And as much as there's, a plethora of research to give people a sound understanding of the importance of quality fat and where we derive that from, it's surprising that that's still a myth out there, that along with counting calories, unfortunately, is still this myth out there that, to be healthy, to lose the weight, to achieve those aesthetic goals, we're needing to count calories, and there's no real understanding how to qualify the quality of a calorie. And so, these are just some basic myths that, even though we've come a long way of, understanding, if anyone's read Paul's book, How to Eat and Move and Be Healthy, a lot of those myths are debunked. The same, if we looked at spirituality as an area that often, the belief that we, depending on what organized religious dogma that you're tapped into, we can find ourselves giving our power away to the idea, this idealistic view that we've created of spirit. And whether we want to call it God, whatever name you want to give this power, and often we give our power out, to an idea outside of us, and believe that spirit is somehow separate to us, and that we have to do something or be something in order to connect to spirit. And that leads, of course, to so much pain and suffering for people because, they're there praying, for a power outside of them to change their life, to change their reality. And they're on a journey of awakening to the very reality that they are this power, they are this God, that the God consciousness lives within them, and that power to connect is right there. And there's nothing they need to do. There's no particular diet that they have to follow. There's no white robes they have to wear. There's no incense that they have to burn. They don't have to walk around with crystals in their pocket. All of these ideas that, again, create us to think that there has to be some sort of mediator between myself and spirit, can be, in my experience, can create a lot of illusion and distortion to really understanding the nature of who we are and the power that we're always tapped into.
Yeah, I totally wholeheartedly agree. I have this theory that, we spend so much of our life looking for something outside of us. We're told to look for something outside of us. Religion tells people to worship something outside of themselves. And I have this deep sense of knowing that source energy, God, the universe, whatever you want to, creation is creation. It's not the creator. It is creation. And we are just fragmented pieces that have manifested into this physical body. And we are already, like, we are creation. It is us. It's flowing through. Like, it's we are it. I am you and you are me. And yeah, there's this, when people come to me and they're like, I'm so disconnected from spirit, and I'm like, how connected are you to yourself? That's where it starts. If we feel disconnected to spirit, we're disconnected from self. When we connect to self, we connect with spirit. And vice versa. We feel disconnected from self, but spirit's flowing through us. It's like, just connect more with spirit and you'll feel more connected to yourself, because at the deepest core of who we are spirit. And spirit is us. Yeah. We are the vessel.
We are. And I think it's everyone's journey is so individual. So individual. I mean, I would say that I'm somebody who wasn't born with a natural faith. I've really had to work at cultivating my faith and really cultivating a reconnection to my essence. And then I've met people who undoubtedly are just born with this blind faith, and it's part, it's felt, it's seen within their being how they are in life, and there's no right or wrong in that. It's an expression of an individual's journey and what an individual soul extension has come to experience of itself. And the many lessons that it's going to learn from. And one of mine has been to really relinquish my fears of connecting deeply and to resolve the limited beliefs that I am separate to. And I've really had to work at developing and cultivating my faith. I had to work hard at that, and I've had to really confront and challenge a lot of beliefs over the years and resolve those beliefs, and resolve the energy that holds those beliefs in place. And that's a journey, and it's an ever evolving journey. I'm still to this day meeting parts of me that I can feel still sit in separation at times. And working with those parts of me, and offering them my acknowledgement, offering them my acceptance, and not pushing them to the fold before they're ready.
Yeah, I love that. And these are the little pieces of us that have over the years just been keeping us safe, really, ultimately.
Right. Yeah.
And it's all about integrating those pieces back. But it does take love and acceptance of those pieces first and foremost. I often hear people like the ego. These are like, I feel like the ego is kind of like the overriding all of these little pieces of fragments of all of that. And I hear people say, shut the ego up, push it away, tell it. I'm like, why? The ego is you. The ego is this part of you that is doing its job. It's doing what it was designed to do. Okay, it might not have evolved over like millions of years, but however many years we've been around. But it is simply looking after us.
Yes.
So we need to love it.
Yeah.
And we just don't need to let it rule. We need to understand we rule. We just don't need to be kind of, I suppose, forced into decisions or hand our power away to our ego. Right? I see that so often. Yeah.
You know, a big journey for me in that growth has been really learning over time the discernment for the frequency and the energy of my mind, and when I'm, sitting in that energy, and how it is by just a shift in my vibration, I can uplift and expand my mind and align again to that higher vibration, align to that higher consciousness. But we don't know what we don't know. And so until we start paying attention to what it feels like to be in the energy of your ego.
Yeah.
And to sit in that field of energy and be the witness to your choices and what your choices create for you out of that energy. And then have an experience of being in an expanded consciousness and an uplifted consciousness where you're making choices from a higher part of yourself.
Yeah.
And being a witness to what that creates in your life. And really learning to have discernment for what that frequency between the two are, because one is quite dense and you feel trapped in the stories of your third dimensional life, and you trapped and over attached or over associated with the physical, believing that's all we are. And then before you know it, we're being run by the agenda of the ego, which is all caught up in its wants, its needs, its desires. That's when we're overly attached to materialism and things and events, and but we have to become aware of that, and we've got to also be able to have a sense of what that feels like in our life, to know what it feels to be in a different, higher vibration that's not so governed by the density of that third dimension.
Yeah, absolutely. I know Jen's pretty keen to ask you about your space.
Nice space.
Yeah, so let's talk about Jo's drop-in sessions. The live monthly guided connections and meditations. What can our listeners expect from these sessions, and how do they benefit from participating in them?
Well, they were born out of students that are coming through various schools that I'm teaching. And those schools would always be started with a 15-20 minute, what I used to call drop-in. We're just going to center ourselves and center our energy, clear our chakras, and just expand the energy that we're sitting in. And we'll do that before we come and start receiving the teachings. And so students would then say to me, is there any chance that we could, can we do more of these drop-ins where all we do is just come and we just sit in this space? We don't do anything else. And I'm like, well, okay, we can. so I listened to that and I thought, look, why don't we just offer something to our community that's just once a month, that's a sacred space to come and sit in, no matter what your level of experience is, no matter what your walk of life is. It's a space where you literally just come and learn to receive, learn to meet whatever part of you is present in that moment, and be offered the opportunity to have that part of you held. Let yourself just, it's about really a space to come and sit within your heart's consciousness, to sit within the portal of your own consciousness. And as you ladies know, when we come together in group, all holding that same intention, then the vibration and the frequency within that group heart that's created every time you come together, it's activated. And the degree in which somebody's, willing to receive through their energy bodies, then they can really be supported just to drop and drop in and drop a little deeper and allow themselves to find a space of peace, and allow themselves to experience some harmony and some balance, even if it's only for 10 or 15 or 20 minutes. So our sessions, they tend to run from anywhere between 30 to 45 minutes. None of them are planned. I just drop into channel and receive for that period of time.
Are they through a Facebook group? Are they through a site?
I just use Zoom. So people just they sign up, they register. So I often just share out on Facebook and Insta the monthly registration, and they just click to register, and it sends them a Zoom link.
Beautiful. And can they find that on your website?
Good question. Yes, there is a page on my website that, yes, there is. It's Joe's drop-in that they can register through. And then I have on, numerous sort of posts throughout the month, just little reminders of when the next drop-in is due to up. And it's a beautiful, safe place for anybody. It's not about them having to come on and feel like there's anything for them to share. It's a space for them to come and really allow themselves just to, it's permission. It's permission to receive. 30 minutes out of your day, once a month, come and just sit in a beautiful, sacred space, and receive a transmission of energy that's going to uplift you and just support.
Beautiful. Sitting in circle is so sacred and so, I'm going to say, uncomfortable if you haven't sat in circle before, because while you sit there, you're actually receiving and being held.
Yeah, and that's, takes us all the way back to where we started. It's one of our greatest challenges as spiritual beings in this human experience. Receive.
Yeah, it is.
I understand. It's scary. Having met so many parts of me that have been scared to receive and really allow myself to sit in that voidal space. It's so vast, and so it's dropping into the mystery of you, and that can be scary.
Very, very scary. Yeah, very, very scary. I think, before we wrap up today, I would love to ask a question on behalf of the audience and those that may be going through a spiritual awakening. What advice or guidance, if you could give them one piece of advice or guidance to help them navigate this profound transformational time in their life and find, as they journey, I suppose, to find the true essence of who they are and their purpose, what would that one piece of advice be?
To try their best to really acknowledge and accept where they are, and that where they are is exactly where they should be. No matter how tumultuous that current situation that they're in might feel, might be, understanding that it is serving a purpose, and that no transformation occurs without the dismantling of the old. And any dismantling of the old is going to be uncomfortable. And so it's really accepting that it's okay to feel uncomfortable, and learning to become comfortable with the uncomfortable. And that's, that's the key that I feel is try not to run away from the discomfort. Lean into.
That was my first mantra when I sort of had my awakening, and I took myself away. I thought I was going crazy. I was glad I was away for that weekend, because I would have seriously admitted myself to a mental institution. And I came away with, my mantra was, get comfortable at being uncomfortable. And every time I came up with uncomfortable feelings or uncomfortable times or ways of being, even just sitting in the nothingness was uncomfortable, I was like, right, it's okay, you're going to survive, you've totally got this. And I would breathe. That's the breath, like the breath, the sound. I'd make sounds. I'd be and I just release that feeling that was deep down in my stomach, like in the pit of my stomach, of that uncomfortability. And that breath and that sound would almost not fully release it all, but it would definitely it'd be like taking the pressure out of it.
And soothing it a little bit.
Yeah. And the breath, as we know, is, there's so much work out there these days. The breath work has become the next, the next in thing. And like everything, there's good and bad with that. I've seen some forms of breath work not necessarily be supportive. It just offers
I agree.
Which isn't really shifting consciousness. It's just, a cathartic release. But breath work done well can offer a very deep shift in our consciousness.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's a step by step. I think that's the other thing, to really come into a place of acknowledging that transformation is a process. There's no magic wand. There's no, special pill. It's a step-by-step process. And, understanding that any initiation you're going through is really an upgrade of your consciousness. And that requires us to let go of the old. And it takes time. It takes time for that. And the other huge thing over the years as well, and it's not easy, but if we can really let go of judging ourselves through the process, and not, that's not easy. First of all, we have to become aware that we're judging ourselves. You catch yourself in the act, and you have to become aware of what that looks like in your life, how it makes you feel. And then you probably have to be the witness to that numerous times before you
become the observer.
and shift that a little bit in your life. But really letting go of judging where you're at and judging your life circumstances. And I've had a huge journey with really understanding the frequency of gratitude. It's taken me years to really, really understand what gratitude is. And, and that's, you know, now in my life, another foundational, spiritually, a foundation that helps to center myself. You know, really brings me back to the present moment. And understanding, remembering that, you know, we're not our thoughts, we're not our emotions, you know, but they are here to teach us something about ourselves.
That they are. We're here for a journey, we're here for a lesson, and all of it, every single part of what we embody is teaching us.
Yeah.
Whatever that is that we've come here to learn in this form.
It is, you know, Earth School is continuous graduation.
Yeah, it is.
Graduate.
It's like, there's more. It's like, even this time around, I'm like, again, what is going on? Oh, we're
Sometimes
going deeper. Actually, there's still more there.
Yeah.
It ends up feeling like a Denos Direct ad. But wait, there's more.
Yeah. It is. So true. So true.
Yeah.
So I just want to share with our viewers that if, you know, they're feeling called to linking with you, following you, we've just placed your YouTube handles, Facebook, Instagram handles below, along with your website link, which is www.joannarushton.com. That is all below here. It'll be below in the podcast as well when we go live there. And yeah, we just want to say thank you for being here. Thank you for saying yes to coming on and sharing this journey. This has been an amazing conversation. So thank you. I appreciate you.
Thank you for all of the work that you lovely girls do in raising the awareness and supporting others to really, you know, take that step, take that next step into owning themselves.
Yeah.
And supporting people to do that. It's so important. We need it more than ever, you know.
We do.
We're here, and to know that we're here at such an auspicious time in the scheme of where humanity, you know, the journey of the collective is going.
Yeah, the great awakening.
Yeah, and
beautiful.
It's going to span thousands of years, not just
absolutely. Yeah, a long time, eons. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Joanna, for chatting with us today. It's been amazing. Thank you to our listeners for tuning in to another episode of Elevate Your Spiritual Awakening. We hope that you've gained valuable insights to help you on your journey of self-discovery and transformation.
And if you've enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe, rate, and leave a review. And don't forget to share it with your friends and that may be on a transformative path as well.
Beautiful. Now stay tuned for more enlightening conversations with experts from various fields. And remember, you are not alone on this journey.
Big love and stay curious.